Anti-heroes and villains are often portrayed as mysterious and intriguing, with complex backstories romanticizing these dangerous individuals, sometimes leading to sickos on the internet simping over killers. So something quite shocking, but also not that shocking if you've been in the true crime community for a while, has been happening on TikTok. And I've been postponing making this video because of my unearthly rage, as my For You page has been filled with women and girls fighting harder than a suburban mother of 4 during Black Friday trying to get the last discounted TV just to overturn this man's death penalty sentence, simply because they think he's hot. He is known as Wade Wilson, or the Deadpool Killer. He was recently charged and sentenced to death for the murder of Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz in 2019. And he is who women on TikTok are choosing to make thirst traps and lust edits of. Yeah, so sexy. My ovaries are practically exploding at the sight of his striking devil-air smile. This man right here, whose face looks like a middle school desk. This man right here, who is too busy crafting Illuminati propaganda on his crotch to feel any remorse for his victims. This man right here, who ran over a woman 10 to 20 times after a failed strangulation attempt just because he wanted to, and I quote, turn her into spaghetti, is who fangirls have sent almost 4,000 love letters and pictures to in prison, some of which had to be rejected for being a little too risque to show at family dinner, if you know what I mean. These people are known as Hybritophiliacs, which may sound like a rare STD, and I do wish it was, as then it would at least be treatable. But it is a term used to describe people feeling romantic or sexual arousal from criminals or an act of crime in itself. This phenomenon of people, which is overwhelmingly women, seek the attention of violent and dangerous criminals, and surprisingly, it's actually very common. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to classify these Hybritophiliacs into 3 categories. The first category is attraction. This is where a person maybe acknowledges the wrongdoing of the crime, but still participates in the fangirling simply because they think this person is attractive. Now, the second category is admiration, which I would say more men fall into, because instead of wanting to date the criminal, they want to be the criminal simply because they admire the serial killing craft or whatever. And the third category is delusion. These are the individuals who would need a telescope to see these individuals as guilty, even if their crimes were the size of a planet and right in front of their face. They refuse to acknowledge the weight of the crimes committed and are convinced that these killers are just misunderstood or completely innocent altogether. The people in this category are the ones that I believe, in my opinion, belong in mental institutions, and they make up a substantial part of Wade Wilson's fan base. This is also the category making its way around social media, inspiring numerous videos simply because it is so jarring that we could be the same species as some of these people, as they have not only written letters to Wade Wilson, but they have also written letters to the judge begging and pleading him to overturn his death sentence, as they believe he is a different person on medication and they care unconditionally for him. They have also resorted to attacking the living family members of the victims. Some, believing so strongly that he is innocent, have also raised over $70,000 to fund legal counsel for a new trial and medical care. And a few have donated more to sparing this killer's life than I make in a month. Now, before you guys go shaking your fist aggressively in the air, calling these people crazy for donating so much money, take a look at this very persuasive and profound mission statement. I'm certain you'll be swayed, left wanting to empty the entirety of your savings to fight for the cause. Wade's story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of justice. As the case continues to gain traction and capture public attention, we urge you to continue sharing Wade's story. Your continued support and donations serve as a critical lifeline for Wade, who is incredibly thankful for all you have done for him. Your donations will go directly towards securing his new legal counsel for future court appeals and potentially providing for any authorized medical care not currently covered by the jail. Your support is greatly appreciated by Wade, his family, and his friends. Thank you for standing with us in this effort. As if a man who smirks in court after brutally murdering 2 women would give a damn about your effort. You are nothing more than a blip on his radar, a singular water droplet in a monsoon. Your effort is nothing more than a slap in the face to the families of the victims who were taken far too soon and for no reason by this monster. He just killed them because he wanted to, as admitted by him to numerous people through recorded phone calls. And while we may try and blame book talk and the dark romance girlies for this sickness, this plague mentality has been around since before snakes could crawl. Wade Wilson is only this generation's new bad boy toy fantasy. He's not special. Men like Jeffrey Dahmer, the cannibal and serial killer, the Unabomber, Cameron Herring, as well as many others have been celebrated and admired by this community for a very long time. In this interview conducted in the 90s, all 3 categories are represented, starting with Category 1, attraction.
So then when the Jeff Dahmer thing happened, I paid very close attention, watched all the TV, taped CNN constantly.
What did you think when you saw him on television? You were drawn to him, why?
Well, he's a very good-looking serial killer, and
how did he appear to you?
I don't. It's very hard to describe. He looked he could do serious damage. That's what he looked like. He had a look in his eye, the way he walked, very passionate and very, I don't know, a lot of the people I deal with on a day-to-day basis, men in particular, seem so blasé.
And he appeared passionate?
He had very strong passion.
Yeah, passionate is definitely one way to describe the long list of crimes that he's committed. I mean, what happened to having hobbies that won't get you arrested and aren't illegal? I guess in this day and age, those are just overrated.
Did he appear lonely?
Yeah.
Like he needed a friend?
Yeah, well, that's the reason he killed, is because he didn't want these people to leave. They'd come to his house, and then as soon as they'd want to leave, he would kill them so they couldn't leave.
Uh-huh.
And here is the crux of why I believe many women fall for serial killers and criminals. Many killers come from chaotic households and have a difficult upbringing, and women, generally being more sympathetic in nature, tend to mistake their loneliness for a need to be protected, and therefore make excuses for their behavior or just disregard it altogether.
You began writing to him 2 or 3 times a week, and you wrote him poetry and sent him excerpts from books and poetry. Have you ever received a response?
No, I didn't receive a response.
Why do you think that he hasn't responded?
Well, in my own sick little mind, I thought he was protecting me from him.
He was protecting you from him?
Yeah. But it could be that he thought I was an idiot.
Do you think he should be in jail?
Oh, definitely. He thinks he should be in jail, too. He can't stop what he's doing. He's mentally ill.
Right.
And he can't stop killing. I don't think his killings were right. I think that he should be helped.
I mean, I guess I'm glad that she acknowledges she has a twisted mind. I guess that counts for something, right? Meanwhile, men like this guy, who idolize male serial killers specifically, do so because they think these guys are alphas, who garner a lot of respect from the normies and can get whatever they want, including amassing a harem of women due to their charismatic nature. The skill of getting women, even if it is just to murder them, seems unworldly to these guys, as they probably struggle to find women who even want to breathe the same air as them. I mean, at this point, it really is this or the red pill community for these guys.
I notice you have a beard a little scraggly kind of beard like that.
Well, it's not exactly an obsession with Charles Manson, more of an admiration, a charismatic individual.
Can you explain it to us?
Pardon?
Can you explain that to us?
He's a charismatic individual. He had control over a harem of 20 women, people to do things for him. How can you not take an interest in that? Any man in this audience, I think, would be interested in that.
Okay. But not every man I don't know that every man in the audience would you take an interest in that?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So maybe we do need an explanation.
Just average everyday living. He went off into the desert. He lived on his own thing. He stayed away from the system, created his own system. People still had to mess with him. I'd like to do something like that.
To be able to do something like that. Does do the murders upset you at all, or
the murders? Nah.
Nothing. You're not upset by that.
I don't advocate it, but not something I would do.
But if somebody gets in the way, or there's a party or something. Okay.
Okay, let's just move on to the last and final category, which is delusion. Starting with the men. Men in this stage of obsession, like their female hybritophiliac compatriots, harbor romantic feelings that go far beyond just physical appearance. This is a soul connection, and no one, not even prison, can keep them from the love of their lives, resulting in these men often marrying the object of their affection when they get released from prison. And this phenomenon is not limited to the United States. There is more than enough of that copium to go around the globe. One of the more outlandish responses I have seen for men actually happened in Japan in 2019, where a hostess named Yuka became extremely obsessed with a host named Phoenix Luna, who she paid for at a host club. Which, for those of you who don't know, is not a sexual thing. Anything sexual that happens off the clock, as prostitution in Japan is still illegal. Host clubs are like regular bars and clubs, except here people pay extravagantly, typically $100 to $300 a night on the low end, or up to $10,000 a night on the high end, just to drink and flirt with some of the attractive people who work there. There's no hanky-panky, just hanging out, going on some dates, and lies, because the host wants you to come back. They want you to feel special so that you'll buy bottles of alcohol, which is how they make their commission. But Yuka started to feel that all these sweet nothings Phoenix whispered into her ear were real, and she started to want more than just a transactional relationship, and became increasingly jealous that other girls got to have his attention. So logically, she decided the only way to keep Phoenix by her side was to stab him in his sleep when he was over at her apartment taking a nap. Then, after waking up from obviously being stabbed, he pushes her off of him and runs out of the apartment before collapsing in the lobby due to his massive blood loss. Yuka then sat next to him while he was bleeding out, smoked a cigarette while talking on the phone to a friend, not even about the crime she just committed, and she just waits for him to die. Now, thankfully, Phoenix did end up surviving because a witness who was going into the lobby to get to their apartment saw him bleeding out and decided to call the police. And the internet, mostly men on the internet, went absolutely crazy for this girl simply because she is attractive. They said she is a real-life yandere, which in Japan is someone who is perceived as being sweet, caring, and innocent before switching into someone who displays an extreme, often violent or psychotic level of devotion to a love interest. And this is the fantasy of several men in Japan, and is also a trope used in quite a few anime. Many netizens enamored with her beauty would go on to say how jealous they were of Phoenix, how they wish they had someone so obsessed with them that they tried to take their life. Yeah, you heard me. Men on the internet were so in love with this woman that they wanted her to take their life. Certain individuals going as far as to say she was too pretty to be a criminal and therefore innocent. Sound familiar? They even made fan art of the photo taken by the witness who called the police of her sitting next to Phoenix being completely covered in blood. They also started a GoFundMe, which raised $4,000 in 2 days before being taken down. So to anyone who thinks men are above this behavior, they're absolutely not. And they can be just as delusional as some of the fans we see on TikTok simping for Wade Wilson.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God! What is that?
But I really have to hand it to the women in this community. They really take it to extra heights. Because it's one thing to be this delusional when you have the mask of anonymity over the internet. It's entirely another when you decide to go on national television and fight another woman over a serial killer.
And he sent me some drawings, and I just find them interesting.
Do you think he's handsome?
Well, I see why other girls might. I don't really know.
No? Then what are you attracted to?
I think he broke away from the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was fed up.
Now, I have a quote from you. The world is overpopulated, so the murders really weren't such a terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of explain that
Those
to
old
me?
women were going to die soon anyways.
What?
They were going to die soon anyways.
People are going to die soon, so why not
The
help
women
them?
he killed were.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, those people practically had one foot in the grave. They're practically free game at this point.
The murder the most strange murder, what did he do in that?
That amazed me. I didn't hear about that till after I was writing it for a while. And he didn't really want me to read all the articles about him because I think he didn't want me to find out about it. But I heard he broke into somebody's house and ripped out her eye and had their eye.
Oh my gosh, that was such a funny and endearing story. I've truly never heard anything like it. It really does make me want to commit a Van Gogh. Oh, and she's 16.
Christine, you've taken this interest or obsession one step further, have you
Not
not?
obsession.
Okay. Not an obsession?
No.
Okay.
He's the one that's he calls me all the time. He always writes to me all the time.
All right. You say you're going to marry Richard Ramirez?
We're supposed to. When I first met him, it was 4 years ago, and the first time I met him, his attorneys were there, and they told me that he was innocent, and they told me to keep visiting him, that it was good for him, and that's what they were telling me. So that's mainly why I went near someone like him, because I came from another state, and I didn't know even what happened. I didn't even know why he was there, and I didn't even find out until a year later what even happened. And that story that she just said, I've never heard anything like that, and I've read all the reports, but that's
What happened?
But
well, that's what he deserves to get something like that from you for even writing back to you, so.
What do you mean?
But you
No,
feel
I'm
what-
telling the truth.
Ladies, I know the admiration is going to
No,
the
I
point
wasn't
of...
there when he killed people.
And I'm
Neither were
surprised
you.
he even wrote back
How do
to
you feel about...
Well, he's still
Are you going
writing
to
me.
marry him?
Yeah, we're supposed to get married.
Are you in love with him?
I don't know.
So you want to marry a serial killer that you know nothing about and you don't even claim to love.
Maybe I should tell you some of the
You don't
things
know?
he told me about you.
Why are you going to marry somebody you're not in love with?
Because she gets to go on talk shows.
Honestly though, the 16-year-old does have a point. But back to a more serious note, how do people become hybritophiliacs in the first place and wind up being so delusional? Well, there are different theories as this appears to be a pretty complex issue. But first, let's answer the question many of you are probably asking, which is this a mental disorder? And maybe I've made it seem like it is throughout this video, but that's only because I think you have to be a very sick individual to engage in this kind of behavior with full government. But according to this article, while it may seem like a mental illness, technically hybristophilia is not a mental disorder, but a condition known as paraphilia or a fetish, which ensues when the normal course of human attraction gets diverted into an unusual or inappropriate avenue. So what does this mean for people who quite literally like it when their partners munch on the forbidden and very illegal fruits? Well, because this is mostly documented in women, it is not highly researched or discussed when it pertains to men. But it is assumed that some men who don't want to commit to doing the crime themselves choose to live vicariously through the crimes of their partner. And like women, might also have some kind of savior complex, and they think they can fix this person and maybe protect them so that they never feel like they have to kill again. However, in women, because of the evolved preference for strong and protective men, hybristophiliac women might mistake violent or controlling men as good partners, therefore developing an attraction to serial killers and criminals. Healthy attraction typically stops when a partner becomes domineering and aggressive, but these women, most likely because they had a childhood where they did not get the love or attention that they required, might latch onto these abnormal stereotypes as they believe someone with obsessive tendencies will never leave them. Or they may just want attention from society or the serial killer in question, which is why it's very possible that some women may not even be in love with serial killers. They just like the attention they get from saying they do. And this longing for someone to give them attention and look their way might lead some women to dye their hair or change their style to match the preference of the killer, like in Ted Bundy's case. It's no secret that Ted Bundy had a type. Typically long brown hair parted down the middle and hoop earrings. And once people started picking up on his preference, hordes of women started showing up to the courthouse looking like carbon copies of several of them, some even admitting to changing their style to match his preferences more closely. Self-esteem issues also seem to be very prevalent in hybristophiliacs, causing these women to feel a loss of power, leading them to reach out to men who they believe has the power that they so desperately want to get back. Receiving attention from these men often makes them feel special and validated while also simultaneously giving them status from their peers, which is why some women in these serial killer fandoms will fight each other as they can't all be special, they can't all have power. Thus, it makes them jealous when the object of their affection is giving attention to somebody else. But the opposite can also be true, where the person is so desperate for any kind of attention that they are willing to share this individual with another partner. As long as they are included, it doesn't matter to them. And I blame movie tropes which perpetuate the illusion that a healthy and good relationship is one where the man needs to be fixed, and how it says something about the woman if they can change him when no one else could. And once they manage to do that, their status is therefore elevated, even more so if they manage to tame him and get them to fall in love with them. But this is the extreme form of this behavior. On a more diluted scale, we've all heard the saying that nice guys finish last. And I'm not talking about the self-proclaimed nice guys on Reddit forums. I'm talking about genuinely nice guys that women who grew up in chaos will intentionally avoid. These women will look specifically for toxic men who emulate that skewed sense of love from their childhood because that's all they know. Even on this latest season of Love Island, Leah said that she should be attracted to this guy because he was genuinely very kind, but she wasn't attracted to him because she needs to feel like the man is going to put her in a mental institution. And I'm not saying that this means she grew up in chaos. I don't know anything about her. I'm just using this as an example to show that some women do not want nice guys. They want the toxicity. They want the chaos. And it is oftentimes these women who grow up to have these abnormal attractions to dangerous, controlling, and violent men. So what can be done about this? Therapy. Lots of therapy. Everybody in this community kind of needs help. Childhood plays such a huge role into who you evolve into as an adult, including some of the triggers we may carry. And while a lot of times the damage is irreversible, that doesn't mean it's unmanageable. Strong family connections and a healthy childhood are often enough for people to develop healthy attraction patterns. But if you didn't have that, you need to find other ways of coping, which doesn't involve turning to violent crime or idolizing those who do. Just because you understand the way someone is and how they act does not excuse them from the consequences of their choices or make their actions okay. We have all been through some shit, and that doesn't mean we get to go out and murder people just because some weirdo on the internet wants to marry us when we get out. And like Miss Girl right here, some of y'all in this community need to be punched in the face, but haven't, and it shows. It is one thing to have these attractions. It is entirely another if you go online and harass the victim's family members, slut-shaming their dead relative and posting shit takes online. Do better.